Hello, Internet. Hello, welcome to Magic the Gathering. Let me draw my opening hand. Yeah, I could have done that faster. This is terrible. I have to mulligan. Or do I? I have to re-answer my last question. Well, Sam's last question to me, because he brought up a good point that I definitely kind of misunderstood the question. Because I was thinking of, like, what's something that I experience in general that kids definitely don't anymore? And Sam, what he really wanted to just like tell me a memory that's like unbelievable for like what kids are and what are memory that would be unbelievable for campers these days. And it's funny because my answer to the question was not a good answer to that, but it was. But I did answer the question, and I'll go into more detail in just a second. And it's Tuesday. I'm making my episode early just because I was just very inspired to make it immediately, and I don't know, I'll be busy this weekend, so whatever. Also, I don't magic. I why did I do that? I don't know. So yeah, Henry's Diary of Hell to Adult. I am back in La La Land. Sam, you said I shouldn't have done snowboarding video. If I literally just needed to go on a higher slope, but the problem is it was the last one of the day. We were about to head back to LA, and my sis and like I didn't have time to like actually prepare and do a long one. So I could have started from the top of the mountain and done a really long one, and that would have been fine. Other than a little hard to hear me, but whatever. I should have figured out if headphones would have worked better, but for like recording audio, but doesn't really matter. Henry's Diary of How to Adult is that I am here. Things are getting more chill. I bought rollerblades. My sister had mentioned wanting to do or get some rollerblades with me, but I didn't have enough time to get them before LA. But I've been wanting to get rollerblades again since I was like a kid because I love rollerblading and I literally just wanted to find someone else to do it. Like I never ride my unicycle here because it's not something you do on your own. So a friend of mine's like, "Oh man, I think I might like start getting like roller skates." I'm like, yes, please. I would like to join. So I'm gonna have rollerblades arriving in a few days. And I think my last video I probably mentioned how stressful work was, and I think I'm just over the hump of how much craziness I had to deal with. I'm gonna probably do extra work tonight, but that's also just because I really want to get a bunch of stuff done for tomorrow. But I then learned today that I can't do a whole chunk of it yet because I need to wait for another team, and they didn't even tell me that they weren't ready for me yet. So great. Anywho, Sam's old question to me, because he asked me two questions when he said he wasn't going to ask me a question, was like, what's an old camp memory that's unbelievable? And like I said, I already mentioned it. And that was the fact that I was knighted in woodshop. So I went over it very briefly in the last video, but let me explain the absolute weirdness of that situation and how wonderful it was. So again, like I said in the last video, back then, there were a lot more like just head instructors that like built a culture around their activity because they have been there as the head for so long. And there are very few people that are still around like that. You can argue that Kimmy is one of the few that kind of is still like that. Maybe what you can say, Justin is bringing the computers and media arts. But back then, Roxy had a whole atmosphere around the hardcore woodshop people where like as I joked about, like he would only let people use metric because it's correct pretty much, because he was like this, I think is he Scottish or Irish, I always forget. I think he's a Scotsman, but he's just this giant ginger man and is very intimidating, but he's so nice. But I would shop assist all the time, which I know like some activity or some woodshop instructors would have that, some wouldn't. But with Roxy, it was like a big deal. It was like an honor you had to earn. And I was like 10 or 11 when I started doing this. I don't remember, probably 11. I know that I was the youngest shop assistant ever when I became a full shop assistant. Well, but speaking of which, that's a thing. So you can assist in woodshop, but there's that and then becoming a true shop assistant. When you became a shop assistant, you like got a pair of goggles with your name on it that was like labeled by the door, that like was stylized to be yours, and you had a woodshop nickname that was written on it instead of your actual name. And to do that, you'd have to like work enough periods. Then you had to do like the final ceremony, which was working an entire day, or at least only all the junior periods, with a goofy wig. And there were like 3 goofy wigs in like the display areas, and you had to wear one and teach the whole thing on your own effectively to like finalize, like as your final rite. And then, so Roxy and whoever one of the instructors was at that time took me out of an evening program. So remember, like as another weird thing that would never happen anymore, usually, I know that there are exceptions, a counselor and a senior staff member took me alone, like off to go get knighted at arts and crafts while evening activity was going on. So yeah, we went to the arts and crafts studio. He like knighted, Roxy like knighted me with a meter stick. They like jousted and held games in my honor. We had like pizza, which I think I mentioned was like, I'm pretty sure the first time I ever had VC, because I never had VC until I was a staff member aside from that time, I think. And then like we watched a movie on my PSP or something like that, which speaking of which, like I had effectively contraband, like because I had the ability to watch a movie on my device back when not every device could do that. And that kind of culture does not exist anymore. It's so hard for me to compare like to like kids now at camp because I only was there one summer in the past 7, and I was so busy in my circus bubble that I don't really know what the day-to-day life of campers is really like anymore. And also that summer was like first Corona summer, like very weird. So I don't think anything like that will ever happen again. It was a magical and weird experience. It was great. Um, but I think that is like a very good unique experience for like something that would never happen these days or ever again. Um, my question to Sam was funny because I asked about like what winter evening activities would be, and he basically was very literal about the concept of being at Lohican specifically in the winter. And Lohican used to like act as a ski resort, like a tiny ski resort in the winter. It's cold, it snows. Like it's not a fun place to be. So we talked like about like, oh, like hot chocolate for movies. And like suddenly I really don't know of a great answer to this because he talked about the misery of like what like stuff like we can't do a proper campfire because it's too cold. Though I would argue that the fire could just be bigger. But what I just like thought of would be, since we'd have to do more activities in like the rec hall and stuff, we'd probably just want to split up divisions more. But what I think a good rec hall evening activity would be is effectively a giant board game night. And I don't mean in the sense of like literal board games like all of my collection. I mean something like Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, where they play chess as the pieces. I want, and this should be an evening activity for the summer also, and you could do this outside, but I think this could be a very effective winter one in the rec hall or sports center if you could get warm enough. I don't know. But basically, the thing that I envision is splitting up all of the kids. I mean, like creating a giant game, like a giant board, splitting kids off to be like armies, like in like Risk or something, and like basically just using cabins or groups of kids as like pieces in a game. I don't know if there's a way to make this engaging enough, especially for the little kids. They would not stay still. But maybe it's like the best of rainy day activities could be used for the little kids, like stuff like red light, green light, and dodgeball, and stuff like this, or like weird role playing games could be used for the older kids. I don't know. And this is why I don't work on EP, which is why I wanted interesting answers from you. Let me know what you think of that idea. I'm curious. So Sam's backup extra secret question was just, what do I do when I'm sick? And he's like, all right, I kind of wanted to keep it in the sense of camp, but I want to ask this because I'm dying. So I'm going to ask two and answer it twice. I'm going to answer the second question twice. So when I am sick, my go-to like food or anything, just like chicken noodle soup. And if I'm like home in LA where I can get this more easily, like matzo ball soup, because like even better for that. Like just the heat and noodliness and stuff is just good for your system. But the camp answer, and I know that's really generic and cliche, but like it works. For camp, I know that Sam mentioned the rave, the rave of '07, which I don't know how impossible that would be these days, but Sam would know better than me. But something really weird about DJ Todd is that until I was like way older, and I mean like a staff member, I had to avoid DJ Todd's like the plague because whatever they were using, like their smoke machines and stuff, made me nauseous and sick. And I like even when I was outside, like I had to prepare for DJ Todd nights because I knew I would always get sick and I get huge stomach aches. And for that, I would always bring a stash of Ritz crackers to camp because whatever it is, just eating like just a roll, like one of those like half rolls or quarter rolls or whatever of Ritz crackers would just always make me feel better. So Sam, I don't know exactly what kind of sick you are, but if it's your tummy, Ritz crackers might help. If it's not, soup. And if you just don't care, eat infinite candy. You'll feel so much worse. But yeah. I don't know why I'm making this so early. I just really wanted to talk about my woodshop experience. But now I have to ask a question to Sam. Since Sam asked me two questions, I'm just not gonna ask one. And I will tell him later because I don't feel like it, I guess. Yeah. Bye!